Hey, this is Matt once again. What about in the video is the paid request this time from Eelco. Thank you so much for that. And for those interested in requesting any type of videos or topics or reviews, feel free to send it either directly to my PayPal or join my Patreon. Both links are down below in the info box. I will try to get to it as soon as I can. And it's interesting that one person requested the Arnold documentary and a different person requested this, so I figured I would just do both back to back. And I've said before when I've done streams, like, hey, you don't check this out, this slide, because it's Sylvester Stallone. It's your favorite actor, and I would go no, because I am a fan of Stallone. I do like a lot of his movies, but it's just he's been very disappointing for a long while, and I always do that no matter what, I would feel there's a lot lacking from this documentary. Because, for example, the Arnold documentary was 3 hours long. And even I'm going, man, they still skipped a lot of stuff. Like, there's no, the movie part, there's no mention of Predator, there's no mention of Total Recall, there's no mention of Kindergarten Cop, there's no mention, really, barely, no mention of Commando. This one is an hour and a half. So it's Arnold's doc is twice as long as this. So I'm like, fuck, imagine how much is going to be missing from this. And there's a lot. Now, was it interesting to watch? Yes. I'm glad I saw this once. It's nice to see Sly as he's packed it up and moving. I think said he was moving east. And he's very well spoken. The mix of interview footage, old footage mixed in with the new, I thought it was fairly well edited. The people interviewed, you got Talia Shire, you got Frank Stallone, you have Henry Winkler, who's in an early film with him, and Lloyd's of Flatbush. Arnold talks a bit about Sly. Quentin Tarantino gives a few thoughts, mainly on his early career. But not a whole lot. Like, you don't have Carl Weathers. I know Burt Young has passed away, but I was hoping maybe they got Burt Young interviewed before he passed away, or the various other people he worked with in the movies. Not really, which was too bad. Now, again, Stallone is well spoken. I would say the big thing about this is the relationship he had with his dad, which I will admit was new because I didn't know anything about that. So that was something to learn about. In Hell's Kitchen, he born half his face is paralyzed, or this part is paralyzed. That's why he always had that snarl, and the way he talks is because this side was paralyzed. How a lot of his childhood he's lived in a boarding house. His parents had a broken marriage. He went to live with his dad. I forget, it was Maryland or something, and there was these horses, and his father was really adamant about them to a point that when he kept yelling at Sly, he took Sly's neck and threw him down. And then you see Sly Myers, like, at that point, I didn't want to see any horses anymore. Of course, later on he did with Rambo 3 and other stuff, but it does keep going back to the father thing from time to time throughout the documentary, and that's definitely I would say the main skeleton of this doc is pretty much he wanted a dad like Rocky, but his dad was more like Rambo. I guess that's kind of the best way to put it. But yeah, he does talk, of course, about his movie career. He was offered thug roles. He was sneaked in to see movies. I do like that they show some of his short films, one including horses, and we see a bit of that. I do like, and they must have interviewed him on a different day, because documentaries take a while to do. There's a bit that he's talking, and he's wearing the cap from Over the Top, which I thought was cool. I mean, oh shit, he's wearing this cap that he wears Over the Top. That's really cool. But they do bring up Lords of Flatbush, and Henry Winkler's interviewed. Quentin Tarantino gives his praise for the film. A good chunk of it is about Rocky and writing the Rocky script. I get it, but a good chunk of it is that. And at first he wanted to rip off Mean Streets, but he's like, wait, Rocky's pretty unlikable, so how do we make him more likable? He's talking about his frustration of his dad. Like him yelling at Mickey in that scene, that's right, it stinks. Stallone talks that was kind of him being frustrated at his father, just like Rocky's frustrated at Mickey. So I looked at that, I guess that was the meaning behind that scene. So you get a bit of insight into that. We talk a bit about the making of Rocky. They talked a little bit with Frank Stallone, how after the film his career was kind of done, as he puts it, because now all of a sudden I'm just Rocky's brother. They do talk a little bit about Fist and Paradise Alley. We do get a bit of Sly's insight in the characters, which I actually like and agree with. He's like, the thing, like there was another older interview where he's talking about, I guess after Fist came out, and say, well, what they did wrong was, the character died at the end, and they let evil triumph, and you can't do that, because people, they like to see the righteousness pay off. Now, granted, it's not true. That's not always the case. Audiences liked Seven, for example, and some of these other movies where it's a bit of a grim ending. But for my own cup of tea and some friends I have, yeah, you want evil to you want good to triumph over evil. So I get Sly's line of thinking, which goes to the last line of the doc, which I did enjoy and had a good chuckle at. So they talk a little bit about the film Fist, they talk a bit about Paradise Alley, and Tarantino talks a little bit about them and how after the Paradise Alley, like, Sly wanted to challenge critics to a fight. They talk a bit about Rocky 2 and Tarantino's praising Rocky 2. They talked a little bit about Rocky 3. Stallone's talking about how I had this fear of maybe I'm not who I was, and I was told maybe you should do this film to get this safe. I was like, wait a minute, I want to do what I want to do. And it's like, yeah, I know maybe this isn't most realistic, but it's theatrical, it's different. He talks a bit about First Blood. And let's say from time to time he talks about his dad. Like later on when he was successful and he's playing polo, and his dad was among the game, and I guess his dad had hit him in the back and hurt him and pushed him down. And even Frank Stallone's talking about how I think their dad was jealous of him. In other words, the dad was a piece of shit. To put it blunt, the dad was a piece of shit. And Sly doesn't say that, but you could read between the lines. They talk about Rocky 4. They mainly talk about the bit with Dolph Lundgren. The story you hear all the time. Dolph hit him, the heart. He had to go to the hospital because Dolph hit him so hard. That's really all they talk about with Rocky 4. Rocky 5, Stallone says it was maybe too personal, and the audience didn't want to see that. Listen, I'm not a diehard Rocky fan. I could watch it. Rocky 5 fan, I mean. I'm not a diehard Rocky 5 fan. I could watch it if it's like the work print version, but that wasn't the reason why people didn't like it. But I mean, whatever. Now, they do show a lot of pictures of Sage Stallone, which is weird. Like, they show a lot of pictures. They show old interview footage, like when Rocky 5 was coming out, and Sly's talking about the film, and there's Sage next to him. But they don't really go into dialogue in the doc about Sage and his passing. It's like, I don't know if the documentary filmmakers just didn't want to bring him up, or maybe Sly said, I don't want to talk about it. But it was obviously on the documentary filmmakers' minds because, like I say, they keep showing pictures of Sage, and again, that interview, the old interview footage. But again, for some reason, they didn't bring up the Sly. Again, either A, the directors were too afraid hey, Sly, let's talk about this, or B, Sly didn't want to talk about, which I don't understand why, because it's your son. You talk about his memory. How was he? Or the kid who's autistic. But none of that's brought up. It's like, it's not, you're not doing it because to make fun of. You're doing it to they're important part of your life, and they should be remembered. So I thought that was weird. Like, Arnold talked about his brother who died in a drunk driving accident, and his father and his mother dying, and Maria and cheating with the housemaid. Like, Arnold's willing to talk about that, but I don't know. It was mainly just him kind of either talking about his dad, or later on talking about how, he wished he spent more time with his family and less time in the movie business. Now he's talking about, like, movie career wise. Like I said, Rocky 4, they only talked about the bit with Dolph Lundgren. Like I mentioned, the punch heart thing. They don't bring up Rhinestone, which I think would be hilarious to talk about. They don't bring up Cobra. I wasn't surprised. There's footage, and like there's, because I did the slide, people are packing up, so you see like little remnants here and there of memorabilia or things of that nature. But Cobra's not talked about, no. Over the Top is not talked about, no. Lockup is not talked about, no. Tango and Cash is not talked about, no. Rambo First Blood Part 2 is not talked about, which I thought was weird. Rambo 3 is not mentioned. Rambo 4 is not mentioned. It's where, like, in the Slide documentary, other than First Blood, Rambo's not really mentioned a lot, other than comparing his dad to Rambo. That and First Blood. The rest of the Rambo, like, he doesn't talk about him. Except a scene in Rambo 5 where originally he's watching a scene, and originally when at the end Rambo's rocking chair, it would stand still, but then Sly changed his mind. And it's funny, he said, like, when I shot this, as if he made the film, but his name's not on the directing. If you ever see this, listen carefully. He makes it seem as if he made this and it was his decision. And I'm like, so did you direct Rambo 5, Sly? I mean, people, what? No, Cliffhanger's not talked about. Demolition Man's not talked about. None of the other films, not Dick Carter, not Driven, not The Specialist, not Assassin. Like, so much of his career is not talked about. I mean, it's more about Rocky than anything. Oscar, he just mentions that was a farce, and people at the time weren't really into farce comedies. Stop and Mumble Shoot, Arnold admits that he did trick Sly. Arnold admits on camera that he tricked Sly. You know, some people go, oh, I hope that story was true. No, Arnold admits that's what happened. I would love to get Stallone more of his perspective on Arnold tricking him. Copland has talked about. Quentin seemed like he was praising the film a bit. Sly talks about how he's proud of the film, but the film bombed. And he felt like, well, maybe this is it. Maybe this is over. The only other film that's really talked about is the first Expendables. And how he got hurt and his fractured neck. Surprisingly enough, the Creed films are not talked about. I was surprised by that. He does talk about Rocky Balboa. I think he says Rocky Balboa was seemed like Rocky Balboa was the film he's the most proud of. So I do laugh that Creed is not mentioned at all, which I'm fine with. But that's the thing, though. It's like it's a documentary on Stallone, but so much of his career, including some of his biggest films like Cliffhanger and Demolition Man, are not brought up or talked about. We don't have a conversation about Sage, or about I forget his autistic. Hell, it would have been fun to have him talk about the magazine that didn't last long. And what was Sly magazine and some of his other stuff. Hey Sly, what do you think about they made a cartoon on Rambo? Let me show you the intro of Rambo, the cartoon, The Force of Freedom. I want to get your thoughts on it. Did they try to do you for the voice? They're like, no, I'm not doing it. I want to hear stuff of that. I want to hear how it was on set of Over the Top and you're doing the arm wrestling. How's that done? And did anyone try to fuck with you? How was it working with Bull Hurley? That I forget the actor's name, who passed away. None of that. So, it's nice to hear Sly. It's nice to see him. I'm a fan. It's nice to see him very well spoken. Old interviews, clips put together. I do like the last line where he's talking about his life and his career and his family. It's like, I'm in the hope business. I hate sad endings. Shoot me. As in, sorry, sue me. Like, I hate sad endings. Which made sense. This is why, like, in Rocky 5, Rocky was supposed to die. In Rambo 5, Rambo was supposed to die. In First Blood, Rambo was supposed to die. And he keeps changing that stuff. It made sense. And I can understand and actually appreciate and like his mentality, because that's kind of my mentality, too. Which maybe that's why his films kind of... one of the many reasons why they related to me more than other people. But it was nice to watch as a fan. It went by quick. It's only 90-some minutes. But for an end-all, be-all documentary, it is severely lacking. So much of his career, so much of his life is really not... I would love to hear his thoughts on, these films not doing the best in the 90s. And you're doing films like Judge Dredd and these other movies and Driven and they're not doing well, and then you're doing direct-to-video films, and what were you thinking when you're doing films like Avenging Angelo, and... No. Either A, they didn't feel like asking Sly about it, or B, Sly didn't want to talk about it. Or both. I don't know. I just weird that Arnold gets 3 hours, but then Stallone gets 90 minutes. So it does come off as a bit of a puff piece. In a way. So, yeah. And that's the thing that gets me angry about it. Like, why do you get upset about that stuff? Because Arnold and Sly, two of the biggest action stars, we don't know how long we have them. And you can't ask them these questions after they're gone. Ask them now, when they're here. I'd love to hear your thoughts on camera about each of these. What do you think is a highlight or low light of your career? Would you have a difference of opinion? Maybe you're disappointed that Cobra didn't do this. I love Cobra. Maybe you don't like Over the Top or Lockup. I love them. I don't know. I read and maybe interview here and there that you've done years and years ago, but what are your thoughts on it now? And you can't ask them after they're gone. Ask them. So just... You have the opportunity to do this stuff, and to me, it falls flat. It falls flat. So it was nice to watch for what it was, but there's a lot that you just feel is lacking and missing. And that brings a sense of disappointment, which is why I didn't want to see it in the first place. And it's exactly what I thought it was. A lot of stuff is going to be missing. A lot of stuff is not going to be mentioned. Some, again, Cliffhanger, Demolition Man, that, and Rambo 2, like, that surprised me. Like, I don't think Cliffhanger, even any footage is shown of Cliffhanger. And Rambo 4 either, which is weird. But, hey, what the fuck do I know? So, again, disappointing. Like Arnold, the stuff I was disappointed in, this even more so. I mean, if you're a fan of Stallone, give it a watch just to see Sly talk and hear a bit about his dad, learn a little bit more about the man himself. Again, it's well edited. It goes by a fast pace. But you're like, man, it feels like a lot of his life is missing from this. Which is true. Brigitte Nielsen, none of that is mentioned. Her name is never mentioned, Brigitte Nielsen. That was a part of his life. Never mentioned. Let me hear your honest thoughts. How did you meet her? How did you first think of her? What happened during it? No. So, that's what I mean. What are you actually going to learn about this other than stuff between him and his dad? So, I don't know. I think for each of these, it should have been like a limited series. I mean, if they do for all this other shit, let's have like a 8-episode series on each of these guys. Oh, you're expecting too much. No. I remember there's a... Okay, I'm going to show something real quick. It's up here. That's why I gotta... There's this thing that came out. Of the Three Stooges. Alright. Hey Mo, Hey Dad. And it's celebrating 100 years. And the package is over there, but this had all 3 of these things. So we have like this one, which has 3 episodes, an hour each. Take a personal journey with Paul Howard Mo Howard's son back in time to the 1890s when the sons of a strong-willed Jewish mother learned about love, laughter, and shtick on the streets of Brooklyn. Then Mo and Shemp and Pal Larry find Morphin to the Three Stooges, step up from vaudeville Sucky Bananas to acclaim as Columbia Pictures' brightest stars. Then episode 3, the 1930s. Episode 4, Curly's downward spiral while the Stooges' Hollywood star soars. Success takes them abroad, but storm clouds are down in Europe and around the world. Episode 5, the Stooges making fun of the Nazis, World War II. Curly takes his final curtain call. Family, friends, and fans are brought to tears. Episode 6. Shemp rejoins the act. Episode 7. New Stooge Joel Besser. Episode 8. TV captures millions of new fans. They want more Stooges. Episode 9. The world bids farewell to Mo and Larry as the days of Stooges end. Each of these are an hour long, so that's 9 hours, 9 episodes that go in depth into the career of these guys. I think it was called Hey Mo, Hey Dad, because his son was the main host behind this stuff. I mean, this was not a big company like Netflix. This is what, GoEntertain.tv. I mean, they released it. I don't know if they were the main guys. Produced by C3 Entertainment Inc. Narrated by Paul Howard. Directed by Frank Basil. Fresh Produce Productions. This is from 2015. So why not? It's fucking Netflix. It's not like, well, we gotta worry about DVDs. And no, you don't put, like... I'd rather see something like that. Wow, that means they're going to go in depth. And that would be interesting. That would pique my interest. The ups and downs, the bells and whistles, highlights and lowlights, warts and all. That would be more intriguing and more satisfying and fulfilling. And so you can't do it. These guys did it with Three Stooges. You can do it, just you won't do it. Difference between can't and won't. So, anyway, with that said, thanks for watching. We'll see you guys later. Bye-bye.